Air France Flight 447 is crossing the Atlantic Ocean. The Airbus A330 is flying an 11-hour direct route from Rio de Janeiro to Paris. 58-year-old Captain Marc Dubois is in command.
Here's the new forecast.
He's been a pilot for well over half his life and is now one of the most senior captains at Air France.
It's hard to see anything in this plane with this lighting.
First Officer Pierre-Cédric Bonin is 32 years old. He's been flying the A330 for about a year.
We are arriving at Intoul.
37-year-old relief pilot David Robert is on standby, with the autopilot holding the plane steady at 35,000 feet.
Air France 447.
Air France 447, go ahead.
The crew communicates with Brazilian air traffic control.
Air France 447, contact Atlantic Center.
As they fly, an onboard computer monitors the engines, hydraulics, and other systems. It also sends progress reports to Air France headquarters. Every 10 minutes, the computer transmits the plane's position, along with any maintenance data.
Atlantico. Air France 447, calling Atlantico.
Air France 447, Atlantico, go ahead.
3 hours into the flight, the captain reports reaching a navigational waypoint off the coast of Brazil.
Air France 447, position in tow.
Maintain flight level 350.
Okay, will do.
So we've got a thing up ahead.
Yes, I saw that.
At 1:49 a.m., the A330 leaves Brazilian radar surveillance and enters a communications dead zone over the mid-Atlantic. 40 minutes before the accident, Captain Dubois is in his seat. First Officer Pierre-Cédric Bonin is in the right-hand seat.
So we've got a thing up ahead.
Yes, I saw that.
And the two men are heading towards a storm.
Looks like we're entering the cloud.
Normally, the crew would try to fly above a storm. But at this stage in the transatlantic flight, it's not safe to do that.
It would be good if we can climb now, eh?
Yeah.
At 35,000 feet, the air outside is too thin for the fuel-heavy plane to climb any higher. The pilots have only two choices: fly straight through the storm or try to navigate around it.
You get some sleep?
So. Well then, I am out of here.
First Officer David Robert relieves the more experienced captain. Robert has almost 4,000 hours more flying the A330 than the other first officer on the flight deck.
First Officer Robert is in the left-hand seat. First Officer Bonin is the pilot flying in the right-hand seat.
Investigators now know that minutes before the crash, the captain left the cockpit for his break.
So you maybe want to go to the left a bit?
But it's unclear which of the two remaining pilots is in command.
Excuse me?
Can possibly go a bit to the left.
The confusion over their roles becomes critical when the plane hits a column of ice crystals in the cloud. The ice crystals pound the plane. Ice envelops the pitot tubes. Suddenly, the pilots can't be sure how fast they're flying.
I have the controls.
Stall warnings begin to blare in the cockpit as Bonin lifts the nose. Finally, investigators know which pilot put the plane into a stall.
You lost the speed.
The pilots need to push the plane's nose down to gain speed. But Bonin inexplicably is pulling back, lifting the nose.
Okay. I'm going back down. Probably 2 or 3 are going up, so go back down.
The pilots struggle to regain control of their plane. But they seem completely paralyzed by their own confusion. Desperate to save his 216 passengers, First Officer David Robert summons the captain. Bonin increases thrust to maximum power, but it's no use.
Do you understand what's happening?
I'm losing all control of the plane.
First Officer Robert decides to take control.
Controls to the left.
He tries to push the nose of the plane down, a key step for recovering from a stall. But incredibly, Bonin is still pulling back on his controls. 90 seconds after the crisis began, the captain returns.
What the hell are you doing? We've lost all control of the airplane. We don't understand anything. We've tried everything.
Dubois scans the instruments, trying to see what's gone wrong.
What do you think? What do we need to do?
I don't know. It's going down.
9,000 feet.
Climb, 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 climb.
Look, I've been at maximum nose up for a while.
Finally, Dubois understands. First Officer Bonin is causing the stall by pulling the nose up.
No, don't climb.
Robert can't get enough lift to recover from the stall. At 2,000 feet, sensors detect the ocean's surface and trigger new alarms.
We're going to crash. This can't be true. But what's happening?
The aircraft hits the water at almost 200 kilometers an hour. More than 3 years after the accident, Alain Bouillard announces that the downing of Flight 447 was not caused by the frozen pitot tubes, but by the crew's failure to understand and rectify the situation.
This can't be true. But what's happening?
New training is now in place to teach crews how to deal with unreliable airspeed and how to recover from a stall at high altitudes.
The airlines have to be prepared to spend more money on fundamental manual flying training and cognition training for their pilots. Air France 447 is just the accident where you can't ignore it any longer, and changes have to come.